This experience happened in 2008 when I was plagued by chronic pain that was diagnosed as fibromyalgia. This pain was unbearable. The pain prevented me from sleeping and forced me to constantly move, stretch and massage my muscles in bed. This condition severely interfered with my sleep. I was constantly tired and my energy during the day was greatly affected. My doctor recommended a medication that, while it would not improve my sleep, would alleviate the pain I was experiencing. When I took this medication, I noticed that my nose felt very uncomfortable, but the pain seemed to be relieved to some extent. I was hesitant to continue taking this medication because I suspected that I might have an allergic reaction to it. I told my doctor about my concerns. He responded with a smile on his face and said that the amount of medication I was taking was too small for me to experience any serious side effects. He seemed confident in the safety of the drug and tried to allay my concerns. One night, after I had taken 3 pills, I went to bed. I had just laid down for a few minutes when my whole body gradually became numb. This caused me extreme discomfort and panic. As time went on, the inside of my nasal passages began to swell, a condition that prevented me from breathing freely at all. I felt like an immobilized mummy. Suddenly, a strong suction came from the top of my head. My body gradually lost consciousness, as if I was detached from the real world. The next scene became exceptionally mysterious. I realized that I was not alone. I was surrounded by many other people. We were lining up to cross a portal. This portal was emitting different colors. I completely lost control of my body, as if I was being dominated by a supernatural force. After going through that portal, I came to a place that looked like a waiting room. The place aroused my curiosity, so I began to scrutinize the people and things around me. A group of teenage boys suddenly walked in. The strong odor of alcohol permeating them. A female came into my line of sight. She looked to be in her late 40s. She noticed me watching her and came over to talk to me in a friendly manner. She confidently told me that she was very proud of her body. However, I also noticed something strange. Her skin color looked very unusual, as if it was caused by prolonged exposure to the sun. Her hair seemed to look very unnatural, the color was clearly incongruous, as if she was wearing a wig. I continued to walk forward. Suddenly, a young woman approached me with beautiful eyes and red hair. Then she sang an impromptu song for us. She sang beautifully. When she sang at a high pitch, her red hair seemed to become brighter and even longer. It was a very interesting scene. Everyone in the place was busy talking, as if it were an energetic social event. Suddenly, I noticed a man enter the room. He exudes a special aura that makes me feel very safe. I walked toward the man. I began to realize that he appeared to be a teacher or guide. He had died in a traffic accident, and his former occupation was that of a truck driver, a hardworking and humble Latino man. His presence made me feel more at ease. He told me that he had come here to help these people because they had lost themselves in life. He sounded caring and responsible, as if he had taken on an important mission. He told me that these people had come to this place because they had committed suicide. I was a little puzzled. He explained to me that any behavior that could lead to one's own death is somehow considered a suicide. I was shocked by his explanation. This place seemed to be for those lost souls. This man could help these people find inner peace and guidance. He went on to explain that in the process of terminating their lives, these people would have a period of rest. This time can help them recover and grow. They need to learn how to love themselves more. This time would purify their souls and remove negative emotions and experiences. I was very confused and asked him, "If these people are dead, what state am I in?" He gently explained that I was in an in-between state. As I was about to walk out of the room, suddenly a couple of men came at me. One of them was saying, "He's alive, grab him." They tried to pull me back to them as if to stop me from leaving. Suddenly, I felt myself moving upwards. In this moment, I felt like I was wrapped in endless love. There was someone who had been next to me, and his face radiated a dazzling light. I began to travel through the universe and I saw something of words and numbers moving in front of me. In that moment, an infinite amount of information flooded my brain. This information seemed to reveal the whole truth of the universe. I started at the age of 5, and even the simplest mathematical concepts puzzled me. However, during this amazing experience, when I was presented with a plethora of mathematical formulas and math, I was actually able to understand them, which was exhilarating. After this experience, I found myself surprisingly in love with numbers, a state that still persists today. During this experience, time seemed to lose its concept. The wizard suddenly appeared to me at some indeterminate moment. Here, many things seem to happen simultaneously and exist independently of each other. Many experiences seem to be so intertwined that it is difficult to describe them in a sequential order. As I looked back on my life, that guide did not judge or chastise me. Even though I had hurt many people in my life, all I felt throughout was unconditional love. It was as if I was given a precious opportunity and gift to be able to step back and understand myself more fully. During this experience, I was able to feel exactly what the people around me were feeling, as if I had access to their inner world. I experienced their worries and their joys. This allowed me to understand the effects of my former behavior and the harm I had done to others. I began to feel guilt and repentance. This feeling did not come from an external source of blame, but from my own perception of my behavior. Here I did not have a direct image of God, but I was able to feel God's presence. In my inner imagination, God is usually an image of a wise man in a big white robe, sitting on a throne. However, this experience also made me realize that God is omnipresent and exists in everything, transcending any image or gender. While there, I also saw many planets. They were revealed to me in a variety of different forms and colors. One planet appeared to be submerged in water, a marvelous sight that is hard to describe. Finally, my eyes came to rest on the Earth, which looked like a floating jewel. As I gazed at the planet, my guide told me that it was time to return to my homeland. Upon hearing those words, my emotions began to become mixed. It felt as if my mother was going to turn away from me and leave me in a completely foreign place. It was a moment of great shock and hurt, like a piece of glass being dropped on the ground. The guide approached me and he encouraged me to be strong. Then he signaled me to look to my left and I saw a school bus parked in the distance. A child stepped off the bus and I immediately recognized it as my daughter, who was only 4 years old at the time. She came up to me, took my hand, and said in an innocent voice, "Daddy, who will take care of us when you are gone?" These words touched my heart deeply. I replied, "Honey, I will stay by your side." Then my daughter got back into the school bus. I looked at my guide and then at the earth with fear in my heart. I cried and told him that I still didn't want to leave. He said to me, "Look to your right." I saw my mother. This is what she looked like in the future. She looked very tired and upset. As I tried to get closer to her, the image faded away. The guide said, "Do you see it? It's time to go back. I cried and said, please. I don't want to leave you. Suddenly, we seemed to melt into one. For a moment, I felt an inner peace, as if an electric current had passed through my body. Then I returned to my home. I walked towards my body and tried to make a connection with it. I tried to wake it up. But I couldn't. I tried to wake my wife, but my voice couldn't seem to reach her. This silent cry made me feel even more desperate, as if I were trapped in a dream world. I did not know what would happen next. The guide was beside himself and said that you must gather energy in your throat area. This will trigger a release of energy and your wife will hear it. I didn't quite understand why I had to do this, but I tried over and over again. After a while, a surge of energy gathered in my throat area. I focused my attention and tried to trigger the release of the energy. Suddenly, my mouth opened and I let out a scream that was full of power. My wife awoke with a start when she heard my scream. She anxiously asked, "Honey, what's wrong? What's wrong?" She kept shaking me. Through her hand, I felt an electric current run through my body, as if her touch had awakened my senses. She stood up and quickly turned on the lights in the room. Even though my eyes were still closed tightly, I was able to perceive the expression on her face. Her face turned pale and her mouth opened very wide. I had never seen her look so terrified. She screamed my name over and over again. I felt the electricity begin to move across my skin. With time, I gradually came back into my body. I took a deep breath. When I woke up, my wife asked me if I should call the emergency services. I firmly replied, "No, I'm fine. Don't call anyone. I just need to sit down and rest for a while." Although I wanted to tell my wife about it, I still needed time to organize the information. Since I've been back, I've been feeling really good. My health has gradually improved and I've gotten stronger. It was a miracle, a rebirth for me. To my surprise, the next day, I suddenly lost my desire for meat. Since then, I have been living a vegetarian lifestyle. I choose to consume many organic foods and try to avoid chemical-laden foods. My diet became purer and healthier. This shift not only affected my health, but also changed my lifestyle and values. I had a wonderful time after returning to my body. During this time, my perception seemed to become incredibly strong and I was able to see light emanating from humans and things around me. All of my senses became more acute, which allowed me to experience all sorts of amazing things in life. I find that many things in the world have become more interesting and enlightening. I can perceive emotions and energies, which gives me a deeper understanding of relationships and life. At the same time, however, I have also experienced experiences that have been frightening and unsettling, as these new perceptual abilities have sometimes left me feeling out of sorts. However, these special abilities did not last too long. After a while, I suddenly realized that these abilities began to fade away. One day, after I walked into a church, I noticed a lot of people surrounding a woman and everyone was comforting her. After everyone had dispersed, I walked up and asked what had happened. The woman sadly told me that her daughter had died. She sadly pulled out a picture of her daughter and I recognized her from the first moment. Intuition told me that I had met her daughter in another world. She told me that her daughter grew up with a love for singing and dreamed of becoming a singer. I vividly recalled my encounter with her daughter. Her hair was red and made a lasting impression. I told this mother about my experience. I told her everything her daughter had told me. It all made perfect sense to her.
My father died tragically when I was very young. He left a bad impression on me. I remember he drank a lot and he had a very violent temper. He would argue loudly with my mother, and these arguments were threatening and made me feel very uneasy. There are also memories of irrational behavior that he displayed in his drunken state, such as breaking things in the house. My mother endured so much pain, yet always held on to her family. After my father's death, my mother worked very hard to give me a better life. She went through a lot of hardships in this process. She often taught me to be strong, to believe in myself, and to try to move forward no matter how hard life was. When I graduated from college, my mother and I were very happy. My mother's love was my motivation to move forward. After I got married, I was very eager to take her into our home and live together because I wanted to take good care of her. However, she preferred to live in her previous house. Probably she felt more comfortable there. This experience took place on Christmas Day 2011, when we took the children with us to my mother's house. I clearly remember that winter was very cold. After we had a nice dinner, my husband and I returned home. Shortly afterward, I felt that it became very difficult to breathe, as if there was a stone pressing down on my chest. The feeling grew stronger and stronger. I told my husband to call emergency services, which I repeated several times. As time went on, my consciousness began to fade, and it all happened so quickly. I said to my husband, "Baby, when are they coming?" He replied, "The doctors are on their way, honey." He held my hand and kept comforting me. Suddenly, I noticed a dark figure appearing in the window. It seemed like a thick cloud of black smoke with no definite shape. It gave off an eerie atmosphere. It seemed to be watching me all the time. Its presence frightened me greatly. I didn't know what it wanted. Perhaps it wanted my soul, or it had some other purpose. It was at this point that I began to worry. Could this be my late father? This thought made me even more nervous and scared because I didn't know why he was here. After a while, paramedics arrived at our apartment. They began to scrutinize my condition. I was very nervous, and my blood pressure and heart rate were very low. The paramedics asked me if I could stand up, and I tried to stand up, but my legs were not strong enough to support me. They realized the situation was very serious and quickly brought a stretcher and carried me from the apartment building to the ambulance. Fear and despair mingled, and I said out loud, "No. I'm dying." I grabbed the arm of one of the paramedics. I kept crying, "Help me. I'm dying." Suddenly, everything around me began to blur. I began to wonder if I was really dead. In that instant, my soul detached from my body. A terrifying demon appeared beside me and began to chase me. This demon made a frightening hissing sound. It told me that I would never see my husband and mother again. The demon's presence made me feel extremely scared and alone. I tried so hard to get away from this monster, but it seemed to keep watching me, knowing my every thought and action. The creature hovered around me, constantly threatening me. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain. It was the worst pain I had ever felt. I suddenly heard a voice that was so familiar. The voice seemed to be guiding me back to reality. But then everything suddenly turned black again. I felt like I was suspended in a dark space with no boundaries. I couldn't see anything or feel my body. I started to shout, but to my surprise, my voice was so low that it seemed that only I could hear myself. I kept shouting, and my voice echoed in the darkness. I had only one wish: to return to my family. I didn't want to die, I didn't want to be stuck in this place forever. I kept shouting out loud, "Please help me. Please help me." I longed to be saved and return to that warm and real world. Suddenly, I had a feeling of relief. Next, I began to fall downward, my body being pulled by invisible forces. The speed of the descent made me panic. I remembered my mother once telling me that if you repent, you won't go to hell. In that moment, I felt like I was falling into the abyss of hell. Screams filled my surroundings as I kept falling, unable to resist this powerful force. I also remember my mother telling me that if you pray to God for forgiveness, you will not go to hell. So I began to pray. I prayed to God, "Please forgive me for my sins." I prayed to you, "Don't let me go to hell." My voice echoed in the darkness. In that moment, faith was the only power that could save me. Finally, I stopped falling and I landed on a hot boulder. It was as if my feet were on fire and I could clearly smell the burning around me. I couldn't see anything now, and darkness still enveloped me. Suddenly, a voice rang out in the darkness. "Child, your time has not yet come. You must climb up and get out of here." I began to struggle up the walls, which were very steep. There were people shouting at me from below. They told me there was nothing I could do. They questioned whether I would be able to save myself. I tenaciously continued to climb, believing that if I didn't give up, I would be able to overcome these obstacles and escape the darkness. As I was about to reach the top, I saw a hand reaching out to me. I saw the figure of a man, but I couldn't clearly see his face. A brilliant light radiated around him. I believed it was Jesus. In that moment, his presence became so miraculous and real. At one time, I questioned the existence of God, but now, God was all around me. I was confident that everything would get better because there was a force at my side, leading me to the light. Jesus said to me, "Son, you must go back. Your family is waiting for you." He continued, "Before I send you back, I must show you something." He helped me review something that had happened in the past. I saw the next scene. On my way home from school, I was fighting with a female classmate. Then Jesus asked me, "What did you learn through this incident? If you had the opportunity to go back in time, what would you change?" At that moment, I felt a great deal of regret because I realized how foolish I had acted. I answered that if I had the chance to go back in time, I would try to change my decision and would not choose violence as a solution to my problems. Next, I saw my 10-year-old self. I snuck out a lot of chocolate from the cupboard, a sweet treat that is always tempting to a child. Then, I walked out into the yard and ate all of these chocolates. I threw the chocolate wrappers outside the yard, hoping that no one would notice that I had stolen the chocolates. I saw many other similar scenes. Each scene was a part of my life and each one taught me something new. I need to work on correcting many things in my life. Suddenly, everything stopped and I appeared in the middle of a bright white room. There, I saw my grandmother. Even though she had died a few years ago, she looked so beautiful. She looked young and her appearance radiated warmth and wisdom. Her skin was very smooth and without the slightest wrinkle. She was wearing a white dress and looked like an angel. She said to me, "Your time is not up yet. We are not ready for you to be here. Your husband and mother are waiting for you and you must go back." My heart became heavy because I didn't know how to go back. I felt helpless and confused. My grandmother pointed her finger to my right. So I walked towards that path. Grandmother's gaze was full of encouragement, as if telling me that this path would bring me back to earth and to my family. A warm glow surrounded me, and everything began to become clear. My consciousness gradually connected to my body, and I began to feel my surroundings and my own breathing. I was back in my body, and the moment was full of wonder. It was clear to me that I was safe. In that moment, I felt how lucky I was. I spent a month in the hospital, which was a long and difficult time. It is a medically unexplainable miracle that my kidneys completely healed themselves in the process. For years I had suffered from anemia, but now my hemoglobin levels are all back to normal. I am convinced that Jesus saved me, and I proved my courage and determination at that critical moment. This experience made me realize the fragility and preciousness of life and gave me a deeper understanding of faith.